Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and I want to give one more shout out for Unfold Games Awards. As I mentioned in the previous shout out last episode, it's a game awards event you guys should definitely take advantage of. Again, I have $170,000 in funding and prizes, so a lot to be taken advantage of, and the entries are free. It's indie specific, indie only, which they define as, just as long as your team doesn't exceed 10 people in size, you're good to submit. So make sure you go to the site. It's unfoldgamesawards.com. Check out all the information and make sure that you're eligible and following all the rules and everything. They're sponsored by Intel, Unity, Pixelogic, and a bunch of others. And, the jurors are just comprised of amazing industry veterans from AAA, big content creators, and people in the media as well. So again, a great opportunity for anyone out there who's looking to submit their game. Just make sure you follow the rules and requirements in order to do so. And we're coming up on the deadline soon. It's March 15th, 2021. So make sure you get your game in before that date. And if for whatever reason you get this information late and the deadline has already met, just follow them along and make note of the site and go back to make sure you're ready to go next time that they have the event. And again, that's unfoldgamesawards.com. Check it out. You don't want to miss it. All right, guys, that's all I got for right now, and let's get to the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today, along with Mustafa Price, the show's producer. And today, in episode 145, we're going to be talking about how to consistently maintain quality with Supergiant Games. Now, Supergiant Games has been praised for having a consistent and quality signature across their vast array of games. From the initial concept to communication and gameplay, we want to discuss their standard of quality and how the ideas behind some of these games grow to become a complete immersive experience. So that's what we're going to be talking about today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everyone, and we're back, and today I have Mustafa with me. Mustafa, how's it going, buddy?
It is going exceptionally well, Andrew. Thank you for asking. And yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking. And we also have someone else that we're really happy and honored to have on the show. It is Greg from Supergiant Games. Greg, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We appreciate you making the time for us today. So before we get into it or anything, I'd love, for Greg to, please share a little bit more about what you do for Supergiant Games and anything else that you do in your personal life, like hobbies or just things that you do for fun when you're not working at Supergiant.
Yeah, I can start with the first set of questions first, because what I do for fun is probably a shorter list. So my title at Supergiant is creative director, but what I do is writing and narrative design, other aspects of design for our games, including Hades, Pyre, Transistor, and Bastion. So I've been part of the team just about from more or less from the very beginning. And we started with just 7 people in the Bastion days, so I got to wear a lot of different hats. I'm involved with other aspects of our games as well, from just the down to stuff like the marketing and working on our trailers and all sorts of stuff like that. But the like getting my hands dirty working on the stories is certainly one of my favorite parts of what I do, and something that keeps me well occupied during the several years or so that it takes us to make one of our games lately. Prior to that, I worked at 2K Games for about a year in the publishing department on a game called Spec Ops: The Line. And then prior to that, I worked at Electronic Arts on the Command and Conquer series, the real-time strategy game series, which is
yeah.
where I met Amir Rao and Gavin Simon, who are the co-founders of Supergiant. So I was a producer on Command and Conquer 3. That was my first job, and Amir was like a campaign level designer, and Gavin was an AI programmer / designer, and we became friends. And a couple of years later, we were playing these games like Braid and Castle Crashers and Plants vs. Zombies and World of Goo. Those are the games I distinctly remember from around 2008, 2009 that were these like really inspiring examples of what independent games could be. They felt very personal. They were made by just a handful of people in each case, and that's when we started wondering, what could we do left more to our own devices. And in 2009, Amir and Gavin left their jobs, dropped everything, moved into Amir's dad's house, and started working on the game that became Bastion. And I joined them. Like the following year after my stint at 2K. It's a whole long story, but I had been commuting to Los Angeles for that job for about 2.5 years at that point from Northern California. So I had to kind of go back and kind of settle the rest of my life before I could kind of dive right into another high risk game development adventure. My background is in the gaming press, so I worked at GameSpot for about 10 years, which was like my first real job. I started as an intern and was editor-in-chief by the end of that time period. But yeah, I wanted to make games since I was a little kid, and finally got my shot in 2007. That's when I went to EA. So I've now been at Supergiant for like longer than I was at GameSpot, something like that. And we've made our 4 different games. All 7 of those people who were there from the Bastion days, we're all still together, though our team is closer to we're about 20 people now. So we've certainly grown a bit, but stayed on the smaller side, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of key. Being small is really key to how we do a lot of what we do. So we intend to stay relatively small like that.
Nice.
So that's, and in terms of what else I do, like for fun, I've always loved games. I try to play games that aren't the games I'm working on. I like to read a lot. We live in a relatively, there's like trees and stuff around here. We just go on walks and stuff, do outdoorsy kind of things. It's really nice to be able to kind of step away from my computer that way. And yeah, things like that. I don't have any super fancy hobbies to boast about. I don't like make sailing vessels with my bare hands or anything cool like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but still, it's always good to have, something. And I think the important part there is simply you're like, hey, look, we have great fun things to do. We can get outside and stuff, and just take that time to really, decompress and unplug a bit, just so you can get out there. And honestly, simplicity in that way is sometimes all you need. So that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what kind of books do you read? Just anything in general, or?
I read more fiction than nonfiction. I should, reading is one of those things. Like, I think even the most voracious reader would probably say, they wish they could read even more. A nice excuse I have is that we have a couple of kids and we read to them before bed every night.
Nice.
So that if nothing else guarantees I'm reading something every single day. And I have them read stuff that's, that secretly, not so secretly, I also enjoy, right? Or things that either I want to reread from my childhood that I felt was like very inspiring to me at the time, want to share with my kids, or things that are like kind of blind spots for me that I always meant to get around to and now I have this chance or something like that. Like I read a bunch of the Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels to my daughter, I guess last year, a year or two ago, and that's an example of like I'd always had an awareness of Discworld, but never really read the novels. So that was fun. So we bounce around across genres and but mostly fiction. Yeah,
That's awesome.
New and old.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's something I'm trying to do more of with my kids, but my wife especially. She got the illustrated version of the first Harry Potter. So that's always
cool.
fun. And again, like just I love your way you look at that, is like whether it's reading something that I would particularly enjoy or I'm reading something with my kids, I'm just always doing something. So great way to look at it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I love that you shared all that with us and everything, but we're going to go one step further by taking you into the Q Box round. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Q Box round, it's just a series of random questions that we're asking Greg here today, just to get to know him a little bit better. So, Greg, are you ready for the Q Box round?
I think so. Let's do it.
All right. Milkshakes or smoothies?
Ooh. My heart says milkshakes, but my brain and body type says smoothies. Although smoothies aren't that much healthier than milkshakes, honestly. Milkshakes taste better. Smoothies give the impression of being slightly healthier for you. So I think I would pick a smoothie for that reason, even though I would rather have the milkshake. Complicated answer.
Fair enough. A place you'd want to visit?
I was born in Moscow, but I was 2.5 or something when my family immigrated to the United States, and I'm the only member of my family who's never been back. So I have essentially no memory of it except for like these kind of dreamlike little snippets or something. So I would like to see Moscow sometime, I think. But second place for me is probably Ireland.
Okay.
I've always wanted to see Ireland.
Sweet. What's one thing that motivates you every day?
I think my love of games is kind of motivating in itself. Games have inspired me since I was a little kid. They've done a lot. I feel like they've done a lot for me. Like they've been there for me. When times were difficult, they've just been a constant in my life. So I've just always wanted to contribute something to them. But that's pretty abstract. That's like, it's weird to be inspired by like an abstract concept. But like I think, knowing how games are able to make me feel, knowing we have players out there who have been who have had like strong and lasting experiences with our games, that helps to keep me going. I remind myself of that, how much this stuff really means to people when it's done a certain way, and that helps me push through the kind of the downs and the ups and downs of game development.
Sweet. All right, what's the best breakfast food in your opinion?
The best breakfast food. Oof. It's like, this is another in the genre of the milkshake question.
Yep.
I think pancakes / waffles are like really, really good. They're really good when I guess sometimes they can be like, when they're done well, they're amazing. But I also basically never ever have them. So maybe there's an aspect of like forbidden fruit there that I'm just like imagining times when I did have pancakes and waffles. But boy, yeah, they like, whenever, if we're getting breakfast somewhere back in the days when we could do that, I'm always drawn to the pancakes section and never order anything from there.
That's awesome. All right, one more before we ask our staple question, which is favorite animated movie.
All time. It's tough. I love, like, there's too many for me to pick one, right? Like I similar